Samantha Bell had always heard stories about Whispering Woods, the dense, ancient forest on the outskirts of her small town. It was said to be alive, its trees whispering secrets of the past and omens of the future. But these weren't just campfire tales. People who ventured too far into the woods sometimes disappeared without a trace. Samantha wasn't one for ghost stories, but she was a journalist, and the mystery surrounding Whispering Woods was too enticing to ignore. With her trusty notebook, flashlight, and camera, she decided to investigate. She wanted to debunk the myths and uncover the truth. The trail leading into Whispering Woods was overgrown and shadowed, the tall trees blocking out the late afternoon sun. Samantha felt a shiver run down her spine as she stepped into the forest. The air was unnaturally still, save for the occasional rustle of leaves, though there was no breeze. "Just trees and wind," she muttered, her voice sounding small in the vast silence. As she walked deeper, the whispers began, soft, indistinct murmurs that seemed to come from all directions. Samantha paused, trying to pinpoint the source, but the forest offered no clues. "Is someone there?" she called out, her voice shaky. The whispers stopped. Samantha pressed on, her determination outweighing her growing unease. She came across a clearing where a large, gnarled tree stood at its center. Its bark was etched with strange symbols, and its roots twisted like skeletal hands. The whispers grew louder here, as if the tree itself was speaking. She took a photo of the tree and knelt to examine the symbols. They looked ancient, almost runic, but unfamiliar. As she traced one with her finger, a sudden gust of cold air swept through the clearing, knocking her backward. The whispers turned into distinct words. "Turn back." Ignoring the warning, Samantha pushed further into the woods. The deeper she went, the stranger things became. She saw shadows moving in her peripheral vision, but when she turned to look, there was nothing there. Her flashlight began to flicker, despite having fresh batteries. Then she found the campsite. The remains of a small fire pit, abandoned tents, and scattered belongings lay in disarray. A chill ran through her as she noticed claw marks on the tent fabric and a notebook lying partially buried in the dirt. Picking it up, she flipped through its pages. The handwriting was frantic, scrawled as if the writer had been in a hurry. The final entry read, "The woods are alive. They know we're here. They won't let us leave." The sun had set, and darkness engulfed the forest. Samantha's flashlight cast long, eerie shadows as she tried to retrace her steps. But every path seemed unfamiliar, and the trees loomed closer, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers. Panic set in when she realized she was lost. The whispers returned, louder now, surrounding her in a cacophony of disjointed words. "Stay. Join us. You belong here." "No," Samantha shouted, clutching her flashlight like a weapon. The forest answered. From the shadows, figures began to emerge. They were pale and translucent, their faces twisted in expressions of sorrow and rage. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their mouths moved in silent screams. "Who are you?" Samantha demanded, backing away. One figure stepped forward, a woman in a torn dress, her face gaunt and hollow. "We were like you," she said, her voice echoing as if carried on the wind. "We came seeking answers. The woods took us." Samantha turned and ran, her heart pounding. The trees seemed to shift and move, closing in on her. Roots reached up from the ground, tripping her and tearing at her clothes. She stumbled into another clearing, where an old, decrepit cabin stood. The door creaked open as if inviting her in. Samantha hesitated but had no choice, the figures were closing in. She darted inside and slammed the door shut. The cabin was small and bare, with a single wooden chair in the center. On the walls were carvings of the same symbols she'd seen on the gnarled tree. A journal lay on the chair, open to a page with one sentence scrawled over and over, The woods demand a sacrifice. The door burst open, and the spectral figures flooded in. Samantha backed against the wall, her flashlight flickering wildly. "What do you want from me?" she screamed. "You cannot leave," the woman said, her face inches from Samantha's. "The woods choose who stays. The woods demand balance." Suddenly, the whispers stopped. The figures froze, their heads turning in unison toward the cabin window. Samantha followed their gaze and saw the gnarled tree from the clearing, its branches twisting violently in the windless night. A voice, deep and guttural, filled the cabin. "One must stay. One must take your place." The woman stepped forward, her translucent hand reaching for Samantha. "We can't leave," she said, tears streaming down her hollow cheeks. "But you still can. Offer the woods another, and they'll let you go." Samantha's mind raced. "I don't have anyone to offer." The whispers returned, louder than ever, and the shadows in the cabin began to close in. Samantha fell to her knees, clutching her head. Then she remembered the journal from the campsite, the final entry warning of the wood's hunger. With a surge of determination, she grabbed the flashlight and swung it at the cabin wall, smashing it open. The wood splintered, revealing the dense forest outside. She ran. The forest fought her every step of the way. Branches clawed at her, roots tangled her feet, and the whispers screamed in her ears. But she kept going, fueled by sheer will. Finally, she saw the faint glow of the town's lights through the trees. With one last burst of energy, she broke through the forest's edge and collapsed onto the dirt road. The whispers stopped. Back in town, Samantha tried to explain what had happened, but no one believed her. Whispering Woods had always been a mystery, and her story only added to its legend. But Samantha knew the truth. The woods were alive, and they were watching. Late at night, she could still hear the whispers, faint but insistent, calling her back. And in the dark corners of her room, she sometimes saw shadows that didn't belong.